My phone lit up on my coffee table right when I finally had a quiet moment to myself. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the message and my stomach tightened. Scale of 1 to 10, this date is -50. Send help. It was from Ellie Morgan, my boss. For a second, I just stared at the screen. Ellie Morgan did not send messages like that. She was the youngest director at Horizon Solutions, a consulting firm in downtown Chicago. In meetings, she was calm, sharp, and always in control. She walked into rooms full of executives twice her age and made them listen. I had never seen her flustered, not once. So if Ellie was asking me for help on a Friday night, it meant things were bad. Really bad. I'm Jack Reynolds. I'm 28 and I'm an assistant at Horizon. My life is simple. Early mornings, endless emails, booking meetings, fixing small problems before anyone important notices them. I live in a cramped apartment in Wrigleyville, and most nights I'm happy with cheap takeout, a cold beer, and a rerun playing in the background. That night was supposed to be exactly that. I had kicked off my shoes, dimmed the lights, and was scrolling through Netflix when Ellie's text changed everything. The quiet in my apartment suddenly felt pointless. I typed back a quick reply, added a thumbs-up emoji like this was normal, and grabbed my jacket and keys before I could talk myself out of it. I told myself I was just being helpful, just being a decent person. But the truth was I didn't hesitate at all. The drive downtown took about 15 minutes. Chicago was buzzing with weekend energy. Bright lights, packed streets, warm air mixed with the smell of food drifting from open doors. Ellie's date was at Bella, an upscale Italian place in the Loop. She had mentioned the guy earlier that week, Martin, a sales executive from a partner firm. The kind of man who wore a watch worth more than my rent and talked like the world owed him attention. I parked a block away and walked fast, my heart beating harder than it should have. I didn't like admitting it, but this wasn't just concern. There was something else pulling me forward. Through the restaurant's large glass windows, I spotted Ellie right away. She sat under warm amber light at a corner table. Her posture was perfect, like she was still in a board meeting, but her fingers tapped against her water glass, and her smile looked tight, forced. Martin leaned in too close, talking with big hand gestures. At one point, his hand brushed her wrist. It didn't look gentle. It looked like he thought he had earned the right. Ellie's eyes flicked toward the window. When she saw me, relief flashed across her face so fast it almost hurt to see. I walked inside, the smell of garlic and fresh bread hitting me, and went straight to the table. Ellie, sorry to interrupt, I said, urgency clear in my voice. There's an emergency at the office. The Henderson report system glitch needs your approval before it goes to the board. Ellie stood up instantly. No questions, no hesitation. She grabbed her purse like she had been waiting for this moment. Martin frowned. Really? At this hour? Work comes first, Ellie said smoothly, her smile polite and empty. Thanks for dinner. She walked out with me before he could argue. The second the door closed behind us, the cool night air hit, and Ellie burst into laughter. Real laughter, free laughter. She leaned against the brick wall, finally able to breathe. Jack, she said, wiping her eyes, you are officially my hero. And in that moment, I knew my quiet night was gone and something had just begun. I smiled, trying to act normal, like my chest wasn't still tight from seeing her trapped in that restaurant. Just doing my job as the emergency guy, I said. Ellie laughed again, softer this time. You deserve hazard pay for dealing with men like that. I'll accept payment in food, I said. She pointed down the block. Ice cream, there's a truck around the corner, my treat. We walked together and the city felt different now. Quieter somehow, even though traffic still rushed past us. The ice cream truck glowed under a string of small lights, and Ellie ordered caramel cones for both of us without asking. I noticed that. The fact that she knew. We sat on a bench near a small fountain, water spraying gently while the city hummed around us. Ellie took a bite and sighed like she had been holding her breath all evening. He asked if I'd consider quitting my job after marriage, she said, shaking her head. On a first date. I laughed, but it came out sharper than I meant. That's not confidence, that's insecurity. Ellie looked at me for a long moment like she was measuring something. Then she nodded. Exactly. We talked longer than I expected. She told me about her mom and the pressure she felt, how every date felt like an interview she never signed up for. I told her about my quiet weekends and how I liked simple things. She listened like it mattered, like I mattered. For the first time, she didn't feel like my boss, she felt like Ellie. Just Ellie, you know, she said softly, staring at her melting cone. It's nice having someone who gets it, no expectations. My chest warmed. I wanted to say something honest, something dangerous, but I didn't. I played it safe. That's what friends are for, I said. When we stood to leave, her arm brushed mine, and the space between friend and something else suddenly felt very thin. As we reached our cars, Ellie hesitated. She looked at me like she wanted to say more. Then her phone buzzed and she sighed. My mom is already planning the next one, she said. Tell her I charge rescue fees, I joked. Ellie laughed, but her eyes stayed on mine a second too long. Careful, she said. I might take you up on that. I drove home with the taste of caramel still on my tongue. But it wasn't the ice cream that stayed with me. It was her laugh against that brick wall. And deep down, I knew that night wasn't the end of something. It was the start. After that night outside Bella, something between Ellie and me shifted quietly. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It felt like a door that had always been closed finally cracked open, letting light through. The next week, I was in the break room pouring coffee when Ellie walked in. She looked the same as always, polished, focused, hair pulled back, phone in hand. But when she saw me, her eyes softened, and she smiled like we shared a secret. Thanks again for the rescue, she said. My mom is already lining up the next victim. Let me guess, I said, gym guy. She laughed. How did you know? That was when it became a thing. Ellie's mom kept setting her up on dates, and Ellie kept trying because she felt trapped by expectations. But now she had an escape. Me. At first, I told myself it was harmless. I was just helping a friend. Just fixing a problem like I always did. Then the text started. Code red meant the date was unbearable. Evac now meant she was counting seconds. The first repeat rescue happened 10 days later. I was at home finishing a report when my phone buzzed. Evac now, he's flexing while ordering. I grabbed my keys without thinking. This time it was a trendy sushi place in Lincoln Park. I walked in holding my phone like I was in crisis. Ellie, I said loudly, West Coast client just called, data breach scare, we need you now. She stood smoothly and smiled at her date. Work emergency, she said, already walking away. Outside, under the neon sign, she slipped her arm through mine like it was natural. You're a lifesaver, she said. Coffee? We ended up in a small diner, sharing pie and black coffee. Ellie talked with her guard down. They expect me to be perfect, she said quietly. Strong at work, easy at home. I listened. When I told her she hadn't failed anything, her eyes held mine like my words mattered. After that, the rescues kept happening. Wine bars, rooftops, loud lounges, and every time we walked out together and talked like the night belonged to us. At work, we stayed professional. But sometimes she lingered at my desk. Sometimes she left notes with book recommendations. And every time she smiled at me, I felt it. I was falling. And I was terrified of what that meant. I kept telling myself it was fine. That I could handle it. That I could be the rescue guy without wanting more. But then Ellie mentioned Daniel. It happened one morning in the break room. She stirred her coffee and tried to sound casual. My mom's latest project, she said. His name is Daniel, pediatric surgeon, perfect on paper. I forced a smile that felt stiff on my face. Sounds promising. She shrugged. Dinner this weekend, we'll see. At first I pretended it didn't bother me. I told myself I had no right to care. Ellie was allowed to date whoever she wanted. But something changed. She stopped sending rescue codes. The texts got shorter. Then they stopped. I heard about Daniel in pieces. A co-worker mentioning they saw Ellie at a gallery opening. Ellie leaving the office early with her hair down and a soft smile that didn't belong to work. Each detail felt like a slow twist inside my chest. Then I saw them together. I was on Michigan Avenue when I spotted them walking side by side. It was drizzling lightly, the pavement shining. Daniel took off his jacket and draped it over Ellie's shoulders. She leaned into him and laughed. She looked relaxed, happy. I ducked into a doorway, pretending to check my phone, and watched them pass. It felt like watching the end of something I never had the courage to begin. Back at work, the distance grew fast. Ellie stopped lingering. Our conversations turned short and professional. Then one afternoon, her mom came to the office. I walked past Ellie's office with files in my arms and heard her voice through the door. Daniel is perfect for you. Don't get distracted by lesser options. My steps slowed. Jack is your assistant, her mom continued. Sweet boy, but be realistic. My face burned. Convenient, that's what I was. That night, I lay on my couch staring at the ceiling. By Monday morning, I made a decision. I typed my resignation letter and sent it before I could change my mind. Minutes later, my phone rang. Jack, Ellie said, come to my office. When I walked in, she was holding my letter, eyes red. Tell me the truth, she said softly. Why are you leaving? The truth burned my throat. Because I'm in love with you, I said, and I can't keep pretending I'm not. The room went silent. Then Ellie whispered, I broke up with Daniel last week. My world tilted, and everything changed. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at Ellie like my brain had stopped working. You broke up with him? I asked quietly. She nodded, tears shining in her eyes. He was great on paper, she said, but he never made me feel alive, not the way you do. My chest felt tight and full at the same time. All the fear I had been holding cracked open, and I pulled her into my arms without thinking. Ellie held on like she had been trying not to fall for a long time and finally let herself. I was scared, she whispered into my shoulder. Scared of my mom, scared of what people would say, scared of wanting the man who worked down the hall. I held her tighter. Ellie, I never wanted you to lose anything because of me. She pulled back and cupped my face. I'm not losing anything, she said. I'm choosing something. I'm choosing you. Those words settled deep inside me. Reality was still there, though. My resignation letter sat on her desk between us. Ellie looked at it and sighed. You can't stay in that role if we do this, she said gently. People will talk, and I don't want you to feel stuck. I nodded. I still want my bookstore dream, I admitted. I just didn't think I was brave enough. Then be brave, she said. Let me be brave with you. That weekend, Ellie faced her mom. I waited at home, pacing until my phone rang late that night. It didn't go well, she said honestly. But I told her I'm done living for approval. I'm proud of you, I said. After that, we kept things quiet at work. No touching, no lingering. At night, it was different. We talked for hours, hands linked like we had no time to waste. I followed through with my resignation. On my last day, Ellie gave me a wrapped gift. Inside was a first edition of my favorite book. For your future bookstore, she said. That night, we kissed for the first time without fear, and it felt like coming home. After I left Horizon, my days changed fast. I enrolled in evening classes for small business basics and found a part-time job at a used bookstore in Wicker Park. The pay was small, but the shelves felt familiar, like I was stepping back into an older version of myself that I had left behind. Ellie changed too. She moved away from her director role and started independent consulting. Less prestige, more freedom. At night, we cooked simple dinners in my apartment or hers and talked about everything we had been too careful to say before. 6 months later, I stood inside an empty storefront in Old Town with a key in my hand. Exposed brick, big front windows, enough space for shelves and a small coffee counter. Ellie stood beside me, looking around like she could already see it alive. This is really happening, she said. I'm terrified, I admitted. Good, she smiled. That means it matters. We named it Page Turn. The first weeks were chaos. Paint on our clothes, boxes everywhere, arguments about chairs and coffee machines that ended in laughter and kisses. Slowly, the shop came to life. The smell of coffee mixed with new pages. Neighbors wandered in. People stayed. Ellie thrived. She laughed more, she looked lighter, and I felt proud in a deep, quiet way. Then her mom showed up one rainy afternoon. Mrs. Morgan stood in the doorway, sharp and silent. Ellie froze. I held my breath. She ordered tea and sat by the window watching everything. The shelves, the customers, Ellie's smile. So this is what you chose, she said. Yes, Ellie replied calmly, and I'm happy. Before leaving, her mom paused. You look happy, she said. It wasn't approval, but it wasn't rejection either. That night, Ellie leaned into me on the couch. What if she never fully accepts it, she asked. Then we keep living anyway, I said. She smiled softly, and I knew we would. After that first visit, Ellie's mom didn't disappear. She came back a week later, then again after that. Each time she stayed a little longer, asked a few more questions, watched Ellie talk to customers like she belonged exactly where she was. One afternoon after closing, Mrs. Morgan stayed behind. Ellie stood across from her, calm but steady. "I didn't raise you for a small life," her mom said. Ellie didn't flinch. "This isn't small," she replied. "It's mine." Her mom looked at me then. "Are you good to her?" "Yes," I said, "every day." She nodded once. It wasn't warmth, but it was something like respect. Page turn grew slowly but surely. Regulars claimed favorite seats. Couples shared coffee by the window. We hosted small author nights that filled the room with quiet excitement. It was work, hard work, but it felt real. One spring morning before opening, sunlight poured through the front windows. Ellie stood behind the counter making coffee, hair messy, apron tied crooked. She looked like home. I walked up and set a small box on the counter. "What's that?" she asked. Me being brave, I said. She opened it and froze. Tears filled her eyes. "Ellie," I said, my voice shaking, "you changed my life. You made me stop hiding. I don't want to build this place without you. I don't want to build my life without you. Will you marry me?" She laughed through tears. "Yes," she said, "of course, yes." When we told our families, my parents cried. Her friends screamed. Her mom was quiet, but when she saw the ring, she sighed and said, "Just keep being good to each other." Our wedding was small, just people who knew us. We said our vows under blooming trees and promised honesty, courage, and choosing each other even when it was hard. That night, after everyone left, Ellie and I sat on the floor of Page Turn, tired and happy. "Remember that night at Bella?" she asked. I smiled. "Yeah. You didn't just save me from a bad date," she said softly. "You helped me find my life." I kissed her and held her close. We didn't rescue each other anymore. We chose each other,